So let us begin at the very beginning of our SNJM story by acknowledging our 5 foundresses. Eulalie de Rocher, Blessed Marie-Rose de Rocher, Henriette Serret, Sister Madeleine, Marie-Madeleine, Melody Dufresne, Sister Marie Agnes. They were the first 3 sisters of the Congregation of the Holy Names of Jesus and Mary. Soon after their arrival in Longueuil, 2 other young women joined the congregation. Salome Martin, Sister Thérèse de Jésus, and Edwidge d'Avignon, Sister Véronique du Crucifix. So we will now bring to mind the names of the English-speaking sisters and associates that we have known and who have died. So many names, such a history. So let's unlock our memories and acknowledge all of them, each one of them, as Richard and I call out their names, and as their faces come before our eyes on our screens. An SNJM Communion of Saints.
Alice Curran,
Sister Mary Geraldine,
Alice David,
Sister Corinne Françoise,
Anita Lavalle,
Sister Valeda Marie,
Anne French,
Sister Agnes Patricia,
Anne Murphy,
Sister Joan Elizabeth,
Bernadette Delille,
Sister Kathleen Agnes,
Marilyn Murphy,
Sister Claire Lois,
Cecilia Brady,
Sister Rose Ignatia,
Claire Lachance,
Sister Mary Rita,
Denise Pepin,
Sister Marie Natalie,
Doris Curran,
Sister Frances Margaret,
Eileen Evans,
Sister Paul Williams,
Eileen McConomy,
Sister Helena Mary,
Elizabeth Busquet,
Sister Mary of Loyola,
Florence Garriapé,
Sister Florida Marie,
Frances Allison,
Sister Frances of Alverno,
Frances Gallagher,
Sister Maureen Elizabeth,
Gertrude Dubé,
Sister Mary Immaculata,
Gertrude McLaughlin,
Sister Joanne of Christ,
Grace Brown,
Sister William of the Sacred Heart,
Helen Treff,
Sister Alexander Mary,
Helen Meloche,
Sister Isabel de Caramel,
Jean Ann Livesey,
Sister Frances of the Cross,
Jeanne Coudniet,
Sister Céline de la Croix,
Josephine Seagram,
Sister Inez of Mary,
Catherine Williams,
Sister Margaret of the Cross,
Kathleen Cottrell,
Sister Hannah Mary,
Kathleen Dunleavy,
Sister Helen of the Sacred Heart,
Lillian Kelly,
Sister Claire Francis,
Lorraine Crow,
Sister Mary of Good Counsel,
Lorraine LaValle,
Sister Rose Anita,
Margaret Disson,
Sister François du Christ,
Margaret Maxwell,
Sister Helen of the Passion,
Margaret McKenna,
Sister Mary Benedicta,
Margaret O'Sullivan,
Sister Etienne Marie,
Margaret Mary Curran,
Sister Teresa Francis,
Marguerite Morin,
Sister Rita de Sacré-Cœur,
Mary Ellen Collins,
Sister Nora Mary,
Orlando Romani,
Sister Giovanna Maria,
Pauline Ayot,
Sister Louise Cecile,
Philomena Neville,
Sister Philomena Mary,
Rita Bracken,
Sister Isabella Mary,
Rita Brown,
Sister Loretta May,
Rosemary Egan,
Sister Frances Monica,
Dorothy Burns,
Verna de Souza,
Muriel Jackson,
Jerry McDonald,
Patricia Riley,
Mary Cadieux,
Felipe Cueto.
Bridget Thomas.
Ann Sawyer.
Elizabeth LeMay.
Linda Wiltshire.
Mary McDonald.
Ruth Jackson.
Deacon Tony Pietranero.
Joan Ryan.
Geraldine Maury.
Frank Kramer.
Joan Amaro.
Audrey Buell.
So now it's time to share some of our spontaneous reactions, feelings, or memory as the pictures and names were called out of these special people who've been part of our lives. So would anybody like to share anything?
Yes, I would
Rosetta?
like to share.
Okay.
I would like to show, I don't know if you can see it. I have this cross
Yes.
given to me by Sister Frances Allison. She was the one that introduced me to the associates, and she was very, very close, and she helped me a lot in pastoral animation. And just before she passed away, she gave me this chain with this cross, and she told me to wear it every time I do pastoral animation. And I have it here near my desk, and I see it every day. And I certainly wear it not only when I do pastoral animation, but mostly whenever I prepare stuff at home for pastoral animation, I invoke her. And I guess this is also an example of being in communion with the saints.
Oh, that's
Thank you.
lovely. Thank you.
Helen wants to talk. Yes, because I.
Yes, Helen, sure, Helen.
About Helen Treff. Helen Treff and I were at St. Al's. I was principal and Helen had grade 7. She was a wonderful companion. It was during the FLQ times, and we'd get a phone call fairly regularly. J'ai mis une bombe dans ton école. And so
Oh,
we had to go and look because nobody, the janitor wouldn't do it, the police won't do it. So Helen and I looked for bombs regularly in all the desks and put children out in the yard of the teachers and do our routine. The other thing that Helen did for me was she protected me from the French principal who was very amorous. This was before the Me Too days.
Amorous.
She'd come down after school and I had to stay till 5 o'clock. And so she'd stay with me so that I wouldn't be bothered by Mr.
Well, that was great. That was good of her.
That
eh? What a
is
good friend.
Helen's biography, because those are little known facts. I have a whole collection of them.
Oh, that's great. Lorna, you had your hand up?
The Me Too Club.
Yes, I actually just had kind of the type of experience that Pat O'Neill was mentioning before, you know, of really sensing the presence of all of these people. I mean, it just, you know, it still does. They talk about it. I mean, all these wonderful people who have been part of our lives, you know, over these years, and one way or another, I think we're just so enriched by their presence with us.
Okay, thanks, Lorna. Phyllis?
This is a lovely presentation, brought back many emotions. Just a little experience with Alice Curran. She used to worry about me going to prison. And so she said to me several times, she'd say, Phyllis, don't you think you could visit ex-Carmelites instead of ex-prisoners?
Oh, that's too funny.
Ex-Carmelites. That's funny.
Anybody else?
I'd like to just
Jeannie?
mention.
Oh, sorry, Jeannie? Jeannie?
I just, yeah, somebody who wasn't there was Agnes Alma.
Yeah. it's gonna be-
And when I worked at St. Emily, I was the nurse at St. Emily for, about a year or so. And she kind of took me under her wing. So she'd come in the morning, partway through the morning, and she'd say, it's time for your break. And, you know, she'd bring a banana, she'd bring something. She'd bring clothes. I don't know what she thought, but I just remember how enveloped I felt by love.
Yeah.
And I know that the story about Agnes Alma is that she taught grade 1 for, was it 40 years? In the same 40 years in the same classroom. She saw the linoleum change. She saw everything else change in that classroom. But she just had such a beautiful spirit about her. And I was blessed to know her. And I tell you, this presentation has brought me to tears. So I'm not sure if I'm grateful for being in the state, but thank you.
I'm sorry, Jeannie, that Sister Agnes Alma wasn't there. We were in touch with the archives and asked for those who died from 1984. So perhaps did she?
Oh,
pass
maybe
away
she died before. It's
before
possible.
that? Yeah, we had to kind of put a
Yes.
start date, and we thought the best time was when our first associates made their commitment.
Yes, but thank you. Yeah.
Okay, thanks. Yes.
I'd like to follow Jeannie because I was going to mention Agnes Alma too, because
Oh, there you
when
go.
I was a missionary novice, she was in the first grade classroom, and she said, most of the children here don't speak English. There may be 2 Irish names in a whole class of 30 people, a few French names too, and Ukrainian, you know, but she had they couldn't even know how to turn a page in a book, you know. And so because they didn't speak English, she used her clapper. And she'd clap once, and the kid would go to the board and start writing, and she'd clap twice, and then I'll stand up and sing "I'm a Little Teapot." It was just amazing to watch her. And Sister Caroline Cecilia was with the English sisters for a long time. She was the principal at St. Dominic's when I was a novice. And she was just an amazing sister and teacher, because she'd walk into the classroom and the kids would just be like this, you know. She'd do those diagrams, you know, for the grammar, and they just had so much fun. And she was just like an inspiration to me, and I enjoyed myself so much in the classroom when I was in St. Dominic's, and she had me, of course, you know, have the choir and stuff like that. And she really inspired me to choose classroom music rather than a piano and be a private teacher and go and continue at Maison D, you know.
Yeah,
But
that's nice.
They were both an inspiration for me. Wonderful people.
Thanks for sharing. Anybody else? Dorothy?
Yes. It's kind of a gory story, but I'll try to leave the gore out.
Oh, no.
I had been to the dentist and I had a toothache, and he said the tooth had to go. But it seems the pain was not due to the tooth, but actually the bone underneath had what was called a bone cyst. And I passed out, and I woke up in another dentist chair, and he continued with a surgery. And he was a Jewish doctor. It was on a Friday afternoon, and he said, "What am I going to do with you?" And I said, "Well, where am I?" And he said, "Queen Mary Road." And I said, "Anywhere near Isabella?" He said, "Yes." He said, "We're just around the corner." And I said, "Well, I'm okay." So I walked to Laurel Rose, and the door was opened by Sister Kathleen. And she looked at me. She said, "Oh, Dorothy, what happened to you?" And I explained a bit. She said, "Well, thank God you had the sense to come home."
That's true. That's
And
nice.
I'll never forget that. And she took me in, and the other person that was involved there was Phyllis, but thank God she's still alive, because
Yes.
I love her.
Yeah. We all love her.
Yeah.
Oh, Pat.
I'm still crying. I just wanted to talk about two people. One is Audrey Buell. I don't know if any of you remember her, because I came across like her photo several times, and I came across her when she first became an associate. And when I talked to Mary Ellen Holland about her, like, we couldn't remember if she died before, if she died as an associate, or if she had left the associates and then died afterwards. So that's why she's in there. So you know that. And the other person is Joan Amaro. And the wonderful part about Joan Amaro is that she lived in New Brunswick. I don't remember how we got to know her here, but she was obviously living here for a number of years, but then she moved back to New Brunswick, and she would come up almost every year for the annual renewal. And she also was a clown, and amazing fun clown. And maybe partly because of her, she introduced clowning to Jeannie and me. And then Jeannie went on and learned more about it when she was in Windsor for a while. And then I learned more about it myself when I was away for a year in Spokane, Washington. And we came back, and then Jeannie and we started dressing as a clown and doing clown ministry. And we did do something with Joan at some point, because I have a photo of the three of us, and I was wearing a clown outfit similar to what hers was, and then Jeannie had hers. And just going through old photos and coming across that particular photo, I just thought it's amazing. And when she was very, very sick, Beverly and I, Bev Watling and we drove to New Brunswick, and she was in the hospital at the time, and we went down and had a little renewal ceremony of her commitment as an associate. And she was like in her hospital bed. And some family members came, and it was just lovely. And she died shortly after. So it's a wonderful memory I have.
Joan had been in St. Monica's Parish and worked many years in the different committees at St. Monica's before she retired and went back to New Brunswick.
Oh, nice. So now we're going to sing to these sisters and associates, who we may well call God's faithful servants. Our song is "Well Done, Faithful Servant." Make sure you're muted. Sing along. You're going to want to sing along to the words, but make sure you're muted so that we don't hear you in the background, okay?
share in the joy of your master, faithful in life, faithful till death, enter the rest of God. Lord, you know that my heart is not proud, and my sights are not set too high. I hunger not for wonders great, nor for marvels too sublime. Well done, faithful servant, share in the joy of your master, faithful in heart, faithful till death, enter the rest of God.
See how silent and still is my heart, like a child at its mother's breast. Yea, like a nursling satisfied, even so my soul at rest.
Well done, faithful servant, share in the joy of the master, faithful in life, faithful till death, enter the rest of God. Show me the path that could lead me to life, in your presence abundant joy.
You will not leave my soul with the dead,
Your
beloved in decay.
well done, faithful servant, share in the joy of your master, faithful in life, faithful till death, enter the rest of God, in the rest of God, in the rest of God, enter the rest of God.
I'm sure that we will not forget all of these ancestors of ours whom we love dearly. They have been a part of our lives, a part of our SNJM story here in Quebec. As we hold them all in our hearts and in our minds, let us respond to each of the following lines with the words, "We will remember them." And I invite Jeannie to lead us in the following prayer.
In the rising of the sun and in its going down, we will remember them. In the blowing of the wind and the chill of winter, we remember them. In the opening of buds and in the rebirth of spring, we remember them. In the blueness of the sky and the warmth of summer, we remember them. In the rustling of leaves and in the beauty of autumn, we remember them. In the beginning of the year and when it ends, we remember them. When we are weary and in need of strength, we remember them. When we are lost and sick at heart, we remember them. When we have joys we yearn to share, we remember them. So long as we live, they too shall live, for they are now a part of us as we remember them.
In every place and time, the blessed walk among us. There's a mighty throne that stands at our side, the saints and beloved of God. We are joined in a great communion here on earth and in heaven above, for this feast prepared by Christ the Lord, companions in his love. In every place and time, the blessed walk among us. There's a mighty throne that stands at our side, the saints and beloved of God. For the saints of the past and present, for the saints of our family and friends, they have found their home in Christ the Lord, whose kingdom never ends. In every place and time, the blessed walk among us. There's a mighty throne that stands at our side, the saints and beloved of God. They will greet us with great rejoicing at the dawn of eternal day, when we're home at last by heaven's hearth, where pilgrims come to stay. In every place and time, the blessed walk among us. There's a mighty throne that stands at our side, the saints and beloved of God.
Rosetta?
In the name of all of us present today, I pray our closing prayer. God of our ancestors, today we have gathered to our hearts all those who have influenced our lives with their love and goodness. Although they have passed on to the other side of this life, their lives continue to influence who we are and what we do. Like the sound of a bell resounding in the welcoming air, so has the goodness of these holy and dear ones resonated in our lives. Thank you for these ancestors and the bond we have with them. Thank you for their witness and inspiration. Thank you for all the saints who have called by name. Amen.